Hey guys, Joshua Gundam here, and today I'm doing a video about the evolution of the Gundam Msia action figure line. And so here we have the RX-78 version 1, version 1.5, version 2, and extended. And I'm going to compare some of the differences between these figures. So I'll get them out of their little typical evolutionary pose so we can see them better. I'm using a battle-scarred RX-78 version 1.5 because I cannibalized most of my regular ones to turn them into GM version 1.5s, a custom-made GMD type and GM trainer. They work pretty well for that because they're easy to get. Here's the version 2 and the extended. As you can see by looking at these, there's quite a difference in their sculpts. Each one has a unique sculpt. They got their own stylization and their own special features that make them unique. And so starting off with the version 1, it's a version 1. It's the first to come out. It was fairly simple and things like that, but looked a lot like the original RX-78 from the TV show. In fact, it's quite possibly the closest to the television show in its sculpt and things like that, in my opinion. It does, it doesn't have a neck ball joint, just has a peg. Its arms sometimes fall off. It just has very basic articulation. It has no gimmicks, if you will. The version 1.5 came in a deluxe box set, and the battle-scarred version just came regular. But it came also with the G-armor, which was in the television show, but omitted from the movie versions. Because, it's like, hey, that's kind of hokey, let's cut that. So the G-armor came with the version 1.5, and the version 1.5 actually fits inside the G-armor. These little notches right here, this plugs into, and so you can make the G-Bull, the G-armor, the G-Sky. It comes in half, and its core booster can fit on, if I can remember which way it goes. Okay. And so this would fit inside here, possibly the other way, but you get the point. It fits in there. That's what made it pretty cool, was that it could do all these different combos and things. I'm just going to hold that there. So this would come off, and we have the G-Sky. That made it possibly, in many ways, the coolest of all of the RX-78s, is that it had that gimmick of it could transform and things like that. And even the battle-scarred version of the 1.5 can do this. Just there's no battle-scarred version of the G-armor, but one could do that themselves. You can see, pretty neat. Not going to show off all the versions. If you'd like to see them, make sure to look at my Gundam version 1.5 MSIA review. I've got reviews for all of these figures, to my knowledge. And so, basic articulation, 90-degree elbows and arms and legs and things like that, but a bit beefier in its look. And I kind of like that beefy look. The hands are a bit gargantuan. It's probably its biggest downside. Not a lot of downsides about the 1.5. Then comes the version 2. And the version 2 is actually my favorite. It's a bit bigger. It looks beefier than the version 1.5. And if you compare it to the version 1, you're like, oh, I know who's going to win. But it boasts supreme articulation. The legs are double jointed. The legs have more flexibility, so do the feet. The arms have a double-jointed elbow, so it can actually reach up and grab its beam sabers. The shield was pretty cool. It didn't come with any super gimmicks. Its backpack could come off, so you could see the underneath workings, which was kind of cool. My favorite thing about it is that the cockpit opened, and there's a little person in there. They're waving at you. I know, you're like, he's not waving. No, he's waving. Trust me. And so the version 2 could do all kinds of posability that just put the 1.5 and the version 1 to shame. The only downside was with the ball-jointed boosters, they tended to come out. Those just came out accidentally. You can see nice posability. They decided to follow this up with the extended MSIA line, which had some shading to it to make it look a bit more realistic. Things like that. The beam rifle was basically the same. Beam rifle never really changed a whole lot, except with the version 2 and the extended, these things moved. The extended ball-jointed hands, like the version 2, but they're a bit bigger than the version 2's hands, as you can see. There's a stylization different. This one has little notches, this one doesn't. Each one has their little stylizations. It takes the double-jointed legs and things like that, and so it's very similar to the version 2, but they've omitted the cockpit, but put in an extra joint into the chest system. So there's the ball joint down here, but there's also a ball joint up inside. You have a double-jointed chest, if you will. It allows for a little bit more flexibility. The big difference, besides the shading and the slimming down of the sculpt a little bit, was that the arms could do this. That they actually can go upwards, and that is made possible by having a drastically different system in there, as you can see. Makes him a little more fragile, in my opinion. It's just different. It really is. But it's cool. It's cool that you can do that. These also moved, which was kind of different, but it helped with the posability. There's, besides the shading and the double-jointed chest, which you don't, in my opinion, get a whole lot of movement out of, there's not a world of difference between the version 2 and the extended. It really comes down to, in the end, your favorite sculpt, in my opinion. And so some people, they love the version 1s. They feel like it's the truest to the show, and they don't even have version 2s in their collection. I myself have just recently decided, because my collection is ever-growing, and I'm collecting for my stop-motion animation series, Gundam Father Peace, so things that are more usable for animation are more important to me. And I've recently decided to get rid of my version 1 RX-78s. I'm keeping my version 1 other figures like the GMs, just that I really like the version 2, and for what they didn't make a version 2 of, there's the extended. To each his own, you know. Out of all of these, though, my favorite is always going to be the version 2. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video on the evolution of the MSIA. I'm also going to make one about Zaku 2s, so make sure to look forward to that. And please like, favorite, and subscribe as I post a new video nearly every day. And please check out our eBay store. There's a link down below in the more info area, and we have all kinds of cool toys, including Gundams.